bore fruit. He resisted prosecution by his employer, the Judicial Service Commission, and in not so many words, told them to get their act together if they ever have to get a fair chance in successfully holding to account any judicial officer brought before them. While his may have been a little polite, his eventual prosecutor, the tribunal, gave a serious indictment to the Judicial Service Commission. They have been painted as an institution oblivious of its role, a blood-hungry commission. Now, the tribunal fell short of calling it incompetent. They now have a perfect opportunity for their own vindication. The Justice Mwilu petition by the DPP is before them. But even as that was happening, Mombasa was erupting. Today, things are much better as the police take control. In politics, not so much is happening this week, but we still have a lot to speak about. All right, but first is my take. The Teachers Service Commission and the Kenya National Union of Teachers must find a better way of managing teachers' affairs. Constant court battles, public bickering, and punitive actions by the employer are killing the profession. Now, teachers are the sufferers as TSC and NAT engage in endless combat driven more by egos than anything else. Suffering teachers is disastrous for this sector and the education sector. It translates into poor classroom delivery and vigilance on learners and parents arising from what psychologists call displaced aggression. Ultimately, all this leads to poor quality teaching and learning. This is not what we expect in our schools. The latest standoff over salaries and promotion is quite painful, to say the least. The Teachers Service Commission has taken a very drastic move of cutting teachers' pay and reverting them back to all salaries paid 2 years ago. Now this, the employer argues, is the implication of the recent ruling by the Industrial Court that stopped TSC's new policy on promotion and career progression, adamantly opposed by the Kenya National Union of Teachers. Legalists aside, the principle of natural justice is that an employee should not forfeit existing benefits and was penalized retrospectively. The view taken by the TSC is extremely vengeful, and the question to ask is, what does it serve to achieve with that painful move? Does it want to preside over a disgruntled and hurting workforce and expect to achieve its vision of creating a transformative teaching service for quality education? TSC, NAT, and the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Teachers have a solemn duty of enhancing quality standards through promotion and the welfare of the teachers. Although they have different mandates, their goal coalesce on serving teachers' interests, which in turn leads to effective teaching and learning, and that benefits learners and the parents. Differences abound in this pursuit, but that must not be allowed to create hatred, hurt, and humiliate the teachers. Precisely, that is what the current action has achieved. Predictably, NAT will go to court to contest TSC's action, which is a valid and legitimate action. However, that will only prolong the pain of the teachers. Inasmuch as it may be the logical thing to do in the present circumstances to unlock that stalemate, it may not end the battles. Several times in the past, we have argued that the persistent contest between TSC and NAT can be thrashed out if only the two parties resort to honest discussions and humbly appreciate that their obstinate positions are hurtful to the teaching fraternity that they both serve. Not every dispute must be taken to court, and not every action pursued on narrow legalistic framework, or should be pursued on narrow legalistic framework. We detest the drastic measures taken on the teachers by the Teachers Service Commission. Because of disagreement with NAT, it is counterproductive. Teachers should not suffer because of the ego wars between TSC and NAT. And tonight, we seek to reinforce this point by borrowing our quote from the words of Solomon Ortiz, an American politician. Education is a silver bullet to improve this nation's standing worldwide, and our teachers know that. My guest tonight is Raphael Tuju, Secretary General, Jubilee Party, and also a CS. My name is Ken Mijungu. Welcome to our program tonight. Join the conversation. Sidebar is a hashtag at NTV Kenya. Ken Mijungu is my handle. Sidebar begins right now. So the first question is about what the
Jubilee Party is to unite this country. You cannot be the one working against the wishes of the president in uniting this country. And you all recall the infamous recording of a phone call between Raphael Tuju and George Nyanja, and continue to serve as a Secretary General.
Bila Khalwale bila ameingia kwa Jubilee hatumtambui kwa sababu Khalwale hakukaribishwa na Raphael Tuju. Raphael Tuju, you are very junior. You cannot receive me in any party.
Nataka nikuhakikishie Mheshimiwa Khalwale, sisi tutakupea uko Secretary General wa Jubilee Party kwa sababu ule mtu ameshindwa kufanya kazi.
Welcome, and a good place to begin our program. This plot to have you ousted as the Secretary General of the party, where is it? Are you leaving? Are you resigning?
No, of course not. That's politics, and in politics you need a very thick skin. If you have a thin skin, then look for another job.
Okay. You don't think it was a serious indictment to you when they mentioned that, because there was a context to everything they were saying?
No.
Really?
I say that if you're in politics, you need a very thick skin.
Okay.
If you have a thin skin, look for another job.
Okay. So the fact that members of your own party are pushing for you to leave, they're saying you leave, resign, because you have been quoted or you have been mentioned as supporting the other side or in dalliance with the other side. You don't think it's a valid reason still?
I think very soon and more I see us reading from the same hymn book, so to speak. Mm-hmm. I think the bone of contention has been among some of our members, this whole idea of the handshake and the building of bridges initiative, which was initiated by His Excellency the President and the former Prime Minister Raphael Odinga. I cannot pretend to support the President and oppose an initiative that he has started. Okay. And it's not just an initiative that he has started. We're coming from a very polarized country politically. 44% of the Kenyan population voted against this president. The president, in his wisdom, has embraced the fact that he was sworn in to be the president of the whole country, not just those who voted for him, but also those who voted against him. Okay. And he's done several steps, he's taken several steps to ensure that he embraces the whole country, become as inclusive as possible. Okay. And that is the direction he has taken. And those of us who support him are going to support him on that. And we believe that the others are going to come along. And when I see what is happening the last few days, I think everybody's beginning to be from the same side.
All right.
Yes.
I want to talk, or I'll talk broadly about the BBI initiative and the handshake and, of course, all efforts to bring Kenyans together. But I just want to go back one more time to this noise that you must now have a thick skin. Let's listen to this, then we move away from this.
I want to tell you today why, and I think I was among the very first members of parliament. You remember when we had the Mao debacle, that I gave out a press conference calling for the resignation of Tuju, because I found him to be grossly incompetent. But let me give you 4 reasons why Raphael Tuju should cease with immediate effect to be the Secretary General of Jubilee, the party that I belong to. Number 1, in every by-election that we have had in this country after the August 2017 election, Raphael Tuju has frustrated candidates that wanted to run on Jubilee as a party. He frustrated our candidates in Embakasi. You remember the press conference that he issued and said, oh, in the interest of handshake and that kind of nonsense, we are not going. We had candidates who wanted to run on Jubilee in the Ugenya by-election. Raphael Tuju never allowed them. In Wajir, the last by-election that we just had, that candidate, Kolosh, when he was defecting from ODM to Jubilee, Raphael Tuju almost frustrated his cause. You remember those funny press conferences that he was giving when we were trying to get the members from the other political parties to support our candidate? That kind of nonsense cannot be allowed of a Secretary General. Reason number 2, he has refused to receive new entrants into the party, including none other than Dr. Boni Halwale, who seated on my right. Instead of warmly receiving him into the party, he wants to set conditions for him, that before you come into the party, Boni Halwale, you have got to stop attacking or disagreeing with Raila Odinga in public. What a shame. But number 3, let me finish, Jibal. Learn to be patient.
We received
leaked tape that was issued a few weeks ago. Up to date, Raphael Tuju has not come out to publicly deny or engage in a conversation about the leaked conversation between Kim and Nyanja. Yet it goes down to the very foundation of why Jubilee was formed as a party. Jubilee was formed to try and cure tribal animosity and bring together communities that had for a long time, because of political reasons, lived in moments of suspicion and not liking each other. Yet our own Secretary General can dare go on record and speak the way that he was speaking. Fourth and final, if you feel that what you are doing is serving the president, please resign as Secretary General of Jubilee and go and serve Uhuru Kenyatta, our party leader.
All right, as you put this to context, because that's a member of your party and very unhappy with your existence as this SG. Put that to context.
Well, the first thing is that we're going to have an election in next year. By March next year, we should have an election so that our positions will be more substantive. And these are positions that anyone can contest for. So I think that everybody should hold their horses until that time, and then they'll be able to express themselves in the party electoral process.
Okay.
That is one. Two, of course, when I hear a member of parliament calling the BBI nonsense, then is a little bit unfortunate. But I want to tell you that we're very patient, and we're trying to get everybody to understand what this BBI is actually.
Okay.
And the other thing is that being the Secretary General of the party, I respect different views. I respect even criticisms of myself, because if I don't want to be criticized, if I don't want my decisions and my positions to be criticized, then of course it would be inappropriate for me to stay in that position. So I respect whatever they say. Those are their opinions.
Okay.
I've also heard the opinions of others who have completely different opinion from what they hold, not only in terms of BBI or in terms of the handshake, but also in terms of the positions that I've taken.
Okay.
What I can tell you is that when we decided not to, say, for example, failed candidates in Embakasi or in Migori for the senatorial position, or in Kitui for that matter, the case of after the passing of Nyenche, it was after due consultation with the leadership of the
So it was not your sole decision?
It's not my
It's not your
decision.
decision as
I
SG.
only communicate the decisions of the party after consultations. But of course, being the person who announces it,
take all the heat?
if members think that that is Raphael Tuju's position, well, I have to live with that.
Okay, because the party have to consult.
Yes.
But this mirrors the kind of internal wrangles within Jubilee Party. As the SG, do you admit there's a lot of wrangling within your party?
Well, I think you can call it robust differences of opinion, which I think is important for democracy. I think we are a young democracy, and even what you call different formations within the party is normal. I mean, if you looked at the position, what happened with the Conservative Party in the UK the other day, it was the Conservative Party, but there were different groupings within the Conservative Party. They disagreed, and actually it precipitated the change in terms of who the Prime Minister should be.
Okay.
So I don't get worried about this. With respect to BBI, with respect to the handshake, I'm seeing more and more of the members beginning to understand what it is that this is all about. And I've listened to the president, I've listened to the deputy president, even over the weekend, some of the statements he has made. And I think that we are rallying more and more people towards the direction that the president wants the country to go.
Okay.
It is normal that when something new happens, not everybody is going to support it exactly with the same amount of passion.
Okay.
You have to be ready to persuade more and more people to see your point of view,
Okay.
as opposed to considering any opposition to your point of view or the point of view expressed by the president to be absolute.
What does your constitution, the constitution of the Jubilee Party, say about holding parliamentary group meetings? Is it explicit in your constitution?
Yeah, it is explicit that we should hold parliamentary meetings at least twice a year. It doesn't say which month of the year, but a lot of members of parliament have been agitating for us to hold this parliamentary group meeting. There has been a decision to delay that until we have a series of workshops and induction of our members, so that they, first of all, understand the Constitution. Because, for example, say the BBI, which proved to be one of the divisive issues, the BBI is actually covered by our Constitution. Our Constitution actually requires us to start that process of the BBI.
Okay.
But many members don't know this.
So but before the disputed election, no one knew about the BBI. No one knew there would be BBI, right? How was it factored in?
It's not what you.
It's not called as such in your constitution.
But it is a requirement, even in our manifesto, to work towards the unity of this country, even at the expense of losing the elections.
Okay.
That is in our manifesto, that we work for the unity of this country, and that working for unity of the country is more important than winning an election.
Okay.
That is expressly in our manifesto and our constitution.
Okay. The reason why there's not been parliamentary group meetings, except the ones called by the President State House, which, by the way, I have a problem with, because it shouldn't be the prerogative of the party leader to call a parliamentary group meeting. It's something that should happen. During the launch of the Jubilee Party in 2017, there was a promise at the podium that there will be an election in 90 days, 500 days and counting. There's no election. Yes. And one of the things that members of parliament, the people who are opposed to you being there, think is, as a SG, you have the capacity to frustrate this because you're not confident of retaining your seat as the SG.
No, that's not the case. The first thing is that we did promise on the podium that let's not have elections now. Let's have it 90 days after the elections.
Yes.
Yet, that was the expressed wish. Yet, our constitution says that the interim status can exist for up to 3 years.
That's the constitution?
That is in the constitution.
Okay.
All right? Now, we face the challenge immediately after the elections. It was a divisive election. Then we faced two presidential elections. The amount of resources that we spent to run 2 presidential elections was such that as a party, we just did not have the wherewithal to be able to go into another electoral cycle within the party. Because one of the things that people don't understand is that as a party, we have branches in all the 47 counties of the country. And to have elections in all the 47 counties, the budgetary requirements are colossal.
Okay.
Now, the money that we have received from the political parties fund, even now, is not enough
to do the
elections throughout the country.
But we're about 7 months to March next year.
Yes, there we go.
Yes.
Fortunately, there's been an allocation in the next financial year.
Okay.
So with the allocation in the next financial year, then we may be able to mount a national party election process.
Okay.
We just did not have the money.
What a convenient explanation.
The truth of the matter is that if we didn't have the money to do it, the only other way would have been that those members with the deep pockets would then therefore dictate what the leadership of the party is going to be. And I don't think that that's the desirable thing, the desirable situation in which we should be. Okay.
So it's a convenient explanation, but still, let me take you back now to how the parliamentary group meetings that you've had, they've been very acrimonious, right? They have not resulted to desirable outcomes. I'll take you back to the one that just before committee chairpersons were appointed. Why is it that the Jubilee Party, a very big party, has left this prerogative to the party leader, that when he wants to see his party members, he summons the State House and not Jubilee headquarters?
First of all, the meetings which have been at State House, essentially more of get-togethers of the Jubilee Party membership. And of course, I remember from my recollection, we did not only invite the Jubilee Party members, we also invited those parties which are affiliated to Jubilee, like KANU, like the Frontier Party, like the Reform Party, the ones which, all the parties that supported this president during the last elections. And it was a housekeeping process in which we communicated with them exactly the rationale for certain leadership positions in the House being structured the way we structured them. And it was after lots and lots of consultation.
Okay.
And even the leadership we have in the House at the moment is informed by our Constitution. Our Constitution, in spirit, requires of us that we should have the face of Kenya in our leadership. If we were to have just a normal voting process to decide who leads the party inside the House, I can assure you that the position of majority leader will go to a member of parliament from central Kenya. The deputy will be the same. The chief whip will be the same. The deputy chief whip will be the same, and will not have achieved why we set out to be Jubilee. So it's a lot more complicated than just saying, okay, fine, let's have the 170 members to decide, you know, which way things are done. It is a lot more sophisticated.
So your admission tonight is that you have never had a formal parliamentary group meeting as envisioned in your constitution?
No, we have had we've had parliamentary meetings. They adhered to the requirements of our constitution to the extent that it allowed other supporters to come in. That is also within our constitution.
All right. Let's get away from that. And I just want to, apart from being the Secretary General of the party, I'd like to touch on your other role as a Cabinet Secretary without portfolio. What does that even mean?
Well, it simply means that I sit in the Cabinet.
And do what?
The reason, yes, well, I participate in all the discussions of Parliament, of Cabinet, and especially as far as they relate to the manifesto of the party.
Okay. So you're a Cabinet Secretary of the country representing Jubilee interest in the Cabinet?
In the Cabinet, yes.
Is that legal?
Yes, because the President is empowered to invite anybody to sit in the Cabinet who he feels will contribute to the good of that Cabinet.
Okay.
And that is allowed.
That is allowed?
Yeah, that's allowed in the Constitution.
When the Finance Minister or the CS in charge of Treasury was told to step aside because of the court case, ordinarily we expected that the Cabinet Secretary without portfolio would definitely assume a portfolio.
No.
It's not automatic. That does not happen.
Well, it doesn't happen because then it will require that I have to go through parliamentary vetting.
Okay.
So that then I take an oath as a formal Cabinet Secretary.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I want to talk more about that, and specifically I want to talk about your relationship with the Deputy President, William Ruto. But just to finish on this fact, you have spoken a lot about BBI, and I've also asked you a question about the role of the President, the PG, calling the PG meetings. But what is your position or the party position on the referendum, for example? Just briefly. What is your party position?
Well, there is the Building of Bridges initiative.
Yes.
With members having gone around the country, all the 47 counties, and I think they're just about to finish, or if they have not already finished. And that is a process that was initiated by the President himself in collaboration with the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. That is a process that we support. Whatever comes out of that process, whether we go through a referendum or whether it means changing of certain laws through Parliament, whatever recommendation that BBI comes with is what we're going to look at seriously.
Is that not unhealthy for this country? I mean, we cannot peg the outcome of BBI, and as you have mentioned yourself, is that it's initiated by the President and Raila Odinga. How can we peg the whole life of this country on two individuals?
Well, first of all, the President is elected, and he is the President of the whole country, not only those who voted for him, but also those who did not vote for him. Then you have to accept that he did get 54% or thereabout, 53% of the votes cast in this country. The former Prime Minister got 44%. 53% plus 44% comes to 97% of the country. Those who voted in this country, 97% of them voted for those two individuals.
So they carry the whole weight of...
No. They do have a mandate.
Okay.
They do have a mandate which you cannot ignore. All right? And that is where we have problems with the other initiative, which is fronted by a different team under Punguza Muzigo. Much as they may be brilliant constitutional lawyers with specialization and technical and intellectual capacity to be able to write a constitution, that their process has not gone through this process of negotiating with members of the public, because after all, a constitution is a contract between the citizens and those who and the government, so to speak. So for you to sit in a room like me and yourself sit in a room, it doesn't matter how brilliant we are, and decide that this is
what
the
we
way
want for this country.
this is the direction the country should go. I think it is a little bit unfortunate, if not arrogant, so to speak. And I'll give you a very simple example. Take Migori, for example, which I like to give in this particular respect. Migori has 8 constituencies, 2 of them occupied by the Kuria ethnic group, and 6 of them occupied by the Luo ethnic group. Supposing this idea of having 2 members of parliament per county goes through, then you'll be having a situation in which those from the Kuria community will never
have a seat in
Migori County, so to speak. I mean, if
it was supposed to happen, yes.
So, you know, whatever they recommend looks very good and brilliant on paper.
Yes, but practically it won't happen.
Practically, they should go and talk to those
It's retrogressive.
No, not retrogressive. You should just go and talk with those Migori people from the Kuria side and hear what they wish.
But tonight you are making an admission that indeed BBI is about the 2.
No, I'm not saying it's about the 2. If it was about the 2, then they should have just set the way the Munguza people, Muzigo people set, and come up with a bill and tell us. They didn't do that. They have actually come up with a team that has gone throughout the whole country and went into open sessions and asked Wananchi to bring memorandum, asked Wananchi to bring us their suggestions.
Okay.
It was an open process in which people knew where to go.
What if at the end of it, this outcome, the report that is supposed to be released, sometimes probably next month,
hopefully,
reflects the views of the 2? Because there has been sentiments and have been sentiments here and there about what we might expect from BBI. You know, what if it reflects that? What if it reflects the mind of the 2?
That's hypothetical, and you as a journalist now would not answer that.
But what if it happens? What if it happens?
No. I mean, that is hypothetical.
Yes.
First of all, what are their views? Do you know?
No, they set it up. We're just thinking if it conforms, because one of the examples that we've been given, SG, just in a minute, is we need expanded executive. And right at the top, we're thinking of the president, deputy president, prime minister, 2 deputy premiers, just in case this comes out. And there's been a lit conversation on this.
Let me help you.
Yes.
Let me help you on this one. One of the biggest challenges we have in this country, if not the biggest challenge, is the fear of most, if not all, communities of this country, the fear of exclusion. In fact, if there's any reason why we even have violence during the electoral process, is this fear that if we don't win this election, if our tribesman does not get into government, what
happens to us?
Is going to happen to us?
Okay.
Will we get government contracts? Will we get government jobs? Will we be able to get into board positions in parastatals? Will we be able to get jobs in parastatals? Will we be able to get tenders in parastatals? That is the extreme fear of all communities in Kenya.
Okay.
That is what we have to respond to. Indeed, this country in 2017, people were even entertaining the possibility of secession. That is what we should be addressing.
Okay.
Now, how we address it, we hope that the BBI, after listening to all these submissions from the wise and the not so wise, we should be able to come up with a way of uniting this country. Okay. It is not about 2 people.
Okay.
It is about all of us as a country. We have had a situation which, and with due credit to this president, I mean, you know, the minister in charge of internal security is from Nyanza, the minister in charge of defense is from Nyanza. I mean, it's because of his nationalistic credentials that we can be able to do that.
Okay.
But we've had situations in this country where a minister comes from a certain community, then a parastatal, which is under that minister, is populated by people from the same community. All the tenders and contracts go to that community, and we want to walk away from that.
All right. SG, hold your thoughts. I'm coming back to talk about your relationship with the Deputy President, specifically William Ruto. In line with the tweet that was sent a while ago, accusing you of working with Raila Odinga, who is essentially in the opposition, you have spoken really well about the fact that we need to unify this country. But I'd like to bring that to see what you have to say about it, and specifically on that end. And I'd also like to touch on something that you mentioned, the members of parliament mentioned, that recording the audio that we had, if it was really you and what it really meant. So stay with us. We're coming back after this short break.
Kitu nimecheza kwa muda sababu hii 50 yenye nacheza kwa loto huwa inasaidia watu wengine, na mimi nasemanga mkono wangu uko. Kwa hiyo kuna siku alinipigia, nafikiri ilikuwa Jumamosi, nikaongea na mshamba, ndio mshamba akaniambia kuwa nimeshinda hiyo 1.2 million. Nikafurahi sana sababu sikutarajia kabisa, nikafurahia.
Hiyo siku alinipigia simu akaniambia, so nikastuka, lakini nikastuka ile kustuka ya kufurahi. Nikaambia Mungu, wewe tenda, unajua nimepitia mbali, nimetoka mbali, nilikuwa mgonjwa juzi na ukamponya. Niliposikia naitwa Charles Kiboro kutoka Tambachi, nilikuwa almost faint. Nikasema Mungu, kabla sijakufa acha nisikie tena.
Asante sana Lotto, na tusidi kuwa pamoja.
Win every day with Lotto and join over 30,000 winners this month. Plus, win over 1 million shillings on Wednesday or a guaranteed 1.2 million shillings this Saturday. Cheza tuzidi pamoja. Send 50 shillings to paybill number 77700. Account name NTV. Over 18s only. Gaming can be addictive. Play responsibly. This message has been approved by the BCLB.
Nation FM. More music and less talk. Nairobi 96.3, Mombasa 101.5, Meru 93.9, Nyeri 104.9, Eldoret 102.7, and Nakuru on 97.7. Follow us on social media on Facebook at Nation FM, Instagram at Nation FM, and on Twitter at Nation FM KE. Nation FM. More music and less talk.
Yani, unataka tuendelee kuishi kwa hiyo kibanda ulikuwa unaishi ukiwa bado bachelor?
Sasa tunawachana, nataka tu tunafanya kitu tukiwa wawili.
Unajua hizo mistari ni za old syllabus tuliacha form 1.
Kwa sababu wewe ni senior Matiang'i unakatiwa na nini Pawaso?
I'm officially engaged to the Prince Crotus Sabong.
Kwani Crotus ni nani?
Crotus ndo mdosi wake.
Kumbe unataka kupendwa serikali eh?
Kukusaidia naweza kusaidia. Lakini kama unafikiria unalala pale kwangu, hiyo sahau. Wewe kulala pale ni kama Trump kucheza Saudi dance.
Sawa, nitarudi with a bang.
Hiyo usingizi yako ndio tulipia rent. Kwani umekuwa mtoto?
So Leones ndo agaenda kuhunt.
My name is Janet. It's either utawezana na mimi ama urudi pale umetoka. She's the best housemate around.
Hatukusema tunahitaji mashini ya kusiaga unga and a sweatshop.
I'm the only one who can start your madness. Ukweli. You are not the best maid.
The Real House Helps of Kawangware in association with Telkom.
Join Telkom today and share life on our expanded 4G network. Telkom, moving with you.
Jinunulie nakala yako ya gazeti la Taifa Leo kila siku ya Jumatatu hadi Jumamosi. Kwa kufanya hivyo, utanufaika pakubwa kwa maswali ya mitihani ya marudio kwa masomo yote yanayotahiniwa shuleni. Soma gazeti lako la Taifa Leo. Taifa Leo, gazeti langu, lugha yangu.
Nathan thought his life was under control.
Your mom and I have decided to go see Uncle Sean. We need you to come and watch your brother and sister.
I'm not getting out of this, am I?
All right, guys, we're leaving.
Hey, you listen to me now, okay?
But in one moment...
Mr. Edwards?
Yeah, this is him.
Your parents have been in an accident.
He'll find himself in over his head.
Don't worry about Ethan and Rachel. I'll take care of them.
Well, you are not fit at this time to take care of Ethan and Rachel. I recommend that you hire a live-in nanny.
In over my head.
Buy a Smart Card Plus from us at 1.25 million shillings and get 47,000 every month. A Smart Chop Chop Cab at 675,000 shillings and get 25,000 every month. Maridadi Motors. Move your status.
It is always on the edge. It is always football time.
Get an HD decoder, dish kit, plus 2 months of DSTV Family for only 4,999 shillings.
Therefore, our party officials, I want to advise them not to be used to bring hate and breed division and breed ethnicity in this party, because that is against where we started with Uhuru Kenyatta, to build a party that will unite Kenya and cause harmony and brotherhood and unity in our republic. Tunaelewana jameni?
The Deputy President did not mention anyone specifically. He did not mention you, but reading between the lines and what has been happening, we can't fail to say this is you that he was referring to.
Well, my relationship with the Deputy President is very cordial and very respectful, and it is premised on our shared vision on what this country should be, where this country should be going, as articulated in the Jubilee Manifesto.
Are you just not in denial, SG, that it's not a good relationship?
Well, again, I'd like to repeat, what is important is where is Jubilee on issues of ethnicity, on issues of uniting the country, of issues of the Big Four, the manufacturing, which is very, very important because, as you know, this country has got one of the most difficult youth bulge. In the 80s and 90s, Kenya had the highest rate of population increase in the whole world. We have to address this youth bulge by creating jobs, by ensuring that we give hope to our youth and so forth. That is what Jubilee stands for, and those are the most important things that we should be addressing.
Okay.
My relationship with the DP is respectful and cordial.
Okay.
Whether that relationship extends to social areas, whether we hang out together, or I like his suit or he likes my kipara, that's immaterial.
Okay.
What is important,
but I think it's more
ideological
than just how you're making it simple.
Yes. So for me, what is important is the Big Four, the legacy of the president, which is, if you remember what the president said, it was that, in fact, there's a young person who asked the president this somewhere in Thika, what would you want to be your legacy?
Okay.
And he said, to leave behind a united country.
And that's what's important.
That is what is important for me, to have a united country. And if you look at my politics in the last 20 or so years that have been in politics, less than 20 of course, is that I've stuck to the idea of building bridges across the ethnic groups. I've resisted the centrifugal force of ethnic politics.
Okay.
And that's why I was never in ODM. And my credentials in that area are clear.
Okay.
Now, when it comes to the other legacy of the president, and that's the fight against corruption, to resist the temptation of misuse of public funds for personal gain, that is something that I share with the president. That is something which is articulated in the Jubilee Manifesto. In fact, before you are nominated as a Jubilee candidate, you had to make a declaration against corruption and against use of public resources in a corrupt manner. Those are the things that bring me together with the deputy president in the same party.
Okay. I know you have dismissed this, but you're very checked and very respectful about this. But the deputy president did not leave any doubt. Before I read what he said, let's listen to this.
Tuju is a very critical player. He's a very critical player in the governance of this country. So the deputy president must learn not to undermine the head of state. Me, I want to say without a fear of contradiction, Ruto must also realize that Uhuru Kenyatta is the president of the Republic of Kenya and commander-in-chief of the defense forces.
The Building of Bridges initiative is within the manifesto and the constitution of the Jubilee Party. The intent and purpose and the very existence of Jubilee Party is to unite this country. And when we talk about uniting this country, we're not saying uniting the country except the Luos, or uniting this country except the Luyas, or unite this country except the Kalenjins. What we mean is uniting the whole country.
All right. That was the day you spoke when you at that forum in Nyanza. One, I will ask you this question because what the Deputy President is trying to mirror is that you are a gatekeeper of Raila Odinga in the party. That's what he meant. So he says, so our democracy is so liberal that the SG of the ruling party has become the chief strategist of the opposition. Maajabu. You know, that was very explicit, SG. That was very explicit.
Well, I did watch the television interview when the Deputy President was confronted by this question. And he said what he meant is Maajabu is what he considered fake news on behalf of, in terms of that report.
And that was it?
That's how he explained it. Okay. He explained it that he couldn't believe himself that I could be the chief strategist of ODM, and that was fake news. So the Maajabu was because that was fake news.
Okay. So you maintain that your relationship with the Deputy President is so cordial. However, months ago...
Well, what I'm saying is cordial and respectful.
And respectful.
Yes.
Months ago, there was this tape that was leaked, the audio. First, was that your voice?
Well, let me respond to that. First of all, when I'm with you in this program, I'm making the position of the party, I'm talking officially with you, and whatever I say is in fidelity with the party constitution and the manifesto. If you sneak on me when I'm taking a shower and singing, and you record what it is that I've said in my private space, and you go and manipulate it, manipulating using computer programs like Softcake, I know exactly how that works, then it's none of my business to respond to that.
Okay.
But the substance, if you want to talk about the substance of Kiambacha,
yes,
then that I'm ready to discuss.
Okay.
That I can discuss with you.
Okay, because if that was your voice, it seems as though you were very concerned about what happened previously, especially the post-election violence, the unresolved issues. But however, the concern was how you and David Nyenze were talking about it. It looks as if there was a lot of excitement talking about it.
Yeah, that's the way the tape was manipulated.
Okay.
And that I would not want to get into, because what I say in my private space and somebody records it and manipulates it using Cakewalk software, which is available, in fact, even online. I can make you say what you need to say, and I can sequence it in such a way that it says what exactly you didn't mean. You put it out of context. But on the substance of Kiambaa Church, the post-election violence, that I can talk about.
Okay. Sorry, it's just George Nyanja. I mentioned David.
Yes,
So it's George Nyanja, not Nyenze. So I made a mistake there. But the substance of it was about what happened, and the call was, let's try rebuild back before we build this, right? But I think the context was taken, the substance of that discussion was still taken away by the nature of the conversation, which you're saying it might have been manipulated.
That was manipulated and out of context. But on Kiambaa, whatever happened in Kiambaa,
yes,
I want to be able to tell you, before I got into this business of politics, I was a television producer like yourself, as you may be aware. So I covered Rwanda. I covered the massacre which happened in Rwanda. I filmed in Eritrea during the Ethiopia-Eritrea war. I filmed in Ivory Coast and Liberia. I know the devastating effect of ethnic strife. So, in fact, I've been to Rwanda during several anniversaries of the massacre which happened in Rwanda, and in fact, the last one was last month.
Yeah,
when I was actually the 25th anniversary.
Yes,
I was one of the state guests, and in previous ones they have actually invited me, and every time I go to Rwanda, I go to pay homage. I mean, to pay my respects to the mass graves.
Okay.
Now, so when you look at what happened in Kiambaa, in fact, you should read the book which has just been published, The Curse of a Nation. All right? The Scars of a Nation, not the curse, the Scars of a Nation. Where a 9-year-old boy was thrown back into the fire and he got burnt. He is completely disfigured. He has gone through several visits to clinics here in Kenya and in the United States 70 times. This happened to him when he was 9 years of age. And the only question he asked his father, Daddy, why did they burn us in church? Why did they burn us in church? Personally, in 2008, when it was not safe for any Kikuyu even to take refuge at Bondo police station, they were all brought to my home. And my home was the IDP place for Kikuyus from the whole of Siaya County. When the people came to attack them, there was a police force which was guarding my home, and 2 people were shot dead. And until today, my parents have never forgiven me for having dragged their home into that bloodshed. To his credit, let me tell you, the policeman who guarded all these people, plus my family, was Tanui. That time, the Kalenjins were in ODM, but he still put his life on the line to defend
for the other side at
that time. So really, for me, when it comes to things like those, it's even personal.
Okay. Okay. There is a notion that there is a move that has been said by David Murathe. He said it. There is a seeming attempt to block the deputy president from ascending to presidency or getting the ticket from your party, the party where you are the Secretary General. Before I talk about that, the stability at Jubilee Party. Do you see the Jubilee Party existing post President Uhuru Kenyatta?
Of course, it is going to. I think it is going to, and I think I'd like
post
to give
President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Of course, and I want to be able to give credit to the Deputy President, because the Deputy President has said that if he loses in a free and democratic process during the Jubilee nomination process for a presidential candidate, he will support that presidential candidate. He has said it so many times, I cannot count.
Mm-hmm. So the fact that he has said that, and he's even gone ahead to say that no community, no one owes him anything, including the president himself, but those are silent MOU. Were you privy to it when they were crafting Jubilee Party?
No, I'm not privy to any MOU, but what I've
silent,
said,
not written.
No, I don't know. I'm not aware. I'm not in the picture. Okay. But what I can say, the Deputy President himself, to his credit, has said that if he loses to any candidate for the nomination of the Jubilee ticket,
he will support that candidate. Let me put this. Okay.
And what else do you want him to say?
Okay.
He has stated it. All right? And it is normal. And I've said this before, it is normal that there should be a political contest. There is nowhere in our constitution that the Deputy President is the automatic flag bearer of the party.
The words of the president himself, wacha nimalize yangu 10 alafu huyu Ruto pia shike zake 10.
He was the de facto deputy, and at this particular moment, he is his de facto deputy, and therefore, to that extent, that statement is correct.
And it remains true to date.
Well, it remains true to date for as long as no other candidate has come up. But if another candidate comes up in Jubilee to contest for that nomination ticket for Jubilee Party, that candidate will be allowed to stand and contest for that position.
And this sentiment going around, the deputy president, he shall not, we will block him, we will do this, he cannot be, all these things, kieleweke, tanga. I mean, these things propagate the bad politics of betrayal. Don't you see it as such? Because you listen to sentiments. You know, I don't have to hear it from the SG or the president, but the sentiments around their lieutenant.
I don't know what is illegal about having different opinions. I don't know what is illegal.
It reflects what we are thinking, SG.
No, but I don't know what is illegal about having different sentiments. If somebody says they're going to block the deputy president, those who are supporters of the deputy president and the deputy president himself can also say, I'll block this person, I'll block Tuju, or I'll block. They've just been saying that.
They'll
remove me.
Yes.
It's normal.
You can't equate them. It's not the same thing.
No,
it's normal, but it's not the same thing.
Yeah, it's not, look, I mean, you know,
vice chairman of a party, deputy president of a country.
That's okay.
Yes.
That's okay. If somebody says today that they're going to block Tuju, not to become Secretary General, I think that is within their right. There's nothing criminal about that.
Okay.
It is not criminal to say that I'm not going to support this person, I'm going to support somebody else. That is democracy.
So don't you think there is, looking at the sentiments wholesome, it's deliberate, he's not going to make it, we have to stop him. Do you think there's some deliberate attempt just to block him from?
Even if there's a deliberate attempt,
yes,
is it illegal? Suppose there's
it's
a
betrayal.
Well, in politics, today I can support you and tomorrow I don't support you.
But that's where we're heading away from, with even the handshake and BBI.
Who says that if you support me today, you must support me tomorrow? Who says that? In politics,
no one, but
you are free. I'm free to vote for you today as Ken Mijungu. I am free to change my mind tomorrow not to vote for you. And there's nothing to be criminalized on that.
Okay. And one of
and I know that. I mean, I contested for a seat in Radiator. They elected me the first time. The second time, they did not elect me. That is their sovereign right to change their mind that now we don't want Tuju. Fine.
Okay.
And you accept it. That's democracy.
But you see, that's okay. But when we look at it from right at the top, it's more difficult to accept it.
Yeah, right? I think that is part of the problem we have in this country with our politics, that we criminalize having a different opinion. I think people should be free to express themselves. If they don't like Tuju, let them express themselves. They don't like Tuju. If they say they're going to make sure they block Tuju, it is Tuju's responsibility to make sure that he's not blocked.
Okay.
So if we are playing football,
yes,
all right, if you're playing football and I'm trying to score and somebody is defending so that I don't score, that person is not an enemy. It's just part of the game.
Continue playing the game.
Yes.
Now, let me bring that game closer home. David Murathe says what he says. Then the Deputy President, William Ruto, believes you're a gatekeeper for Raila Odinga, who's come to divide the party, right? And he said, hamwezi nifukuza ODM, alafu mkuje hapa pia, mnifukuze, right? At Jubilee. And he believes now you are the gatekeeper for Raila Odinga, who they don't see eye to eye, at least politically and in the succession battle.
I don't agree with you that he believes that. I think he's closer to Raila Odinga than I am. And I think he's closer to Raila Odinga than I've ever been.
That's not an honest statement.
It is an honest statement. He was in ODM. He was one of the Pentagon. I've never been.
That was yesterday. You've just mentioned about yesterday.
Yes, that was yesterday.
Yes.
Yeah. So the thing is that I've never been as close to Raila Odinga the way he has been as close to Raila Odinga. So really, I don't think that he would.
So are you a gatekeeper for Raila Odinga in the Jubilee Party?
I can't be. I am a member of Jubilee Party. But to the extent that we're talking about the BBI, he is an interlocutor with the president as far as BBI is concerned. So I will engage with him on that.
And that this engagement seemingly has increased in the last few months since the handshake.
In what respect?
In the respect that we see you a lot with Raila Odinga. I know previously you've never criticized him publicly, at least in the recent past we've never had that. But the rallies, it looks as though you're so close to Raila Odinga right now.
Absolutely no reasons to criticize him. He's working with the president on the BBI. He's working with the president on uniting the country. We are reading from the same hymn book as far as those two most important things are concerned. The thing is that he believes in the uniting Kenya, and that's why he had the handshake with the president. I've believed in uniting Kenyans from the time I worked with President Kibaki.
Okay.
All right? So really, we're just reading the same script.
Okay.
Now, when it comes to me being seen with him publicly, I'm seen with the Deputy President publicly.
More times than Raila Odinga?
I think so.
Yes.
We attend the cabinet together. There are functions in which we find ourselves together, and we are very cordial. But of course, as far as media is concerned, for something like 16 years, I was not in the same side politically with Raila Odinga. Now that we're on the same political side as far as the BBI and the handshake is concerned, of course that makes news.
I think it's more. Do you expect Raila Odinga to rub you back in 2022?
No.
Are you looking for something in
I've not asked him. We have not even discussed it. It's never been a topic of discussion between us. I think the only thing I've discussed with him is, for example, the revitalization of the Kisumu port, which is currently going on, and anything else that will help Kenyans in general.
Okay.
Nothing personal.
About 2022?
Zero.
Have you set your sight on something for 2022?
No.
Not yet declared or not yet set your sight?
I've not set my sight on anything,
yes.
and I know the question you want to ask. Why don't I ask it for you? Am I going to run for Siaya?
Yes.
No. I've said it before. I've said it, I think, like 10, 20 times.
Okay.
But of course, because I come from Siaya, people
We
ask me
expect it,
that.
yes.
I don't know, why don't you ask me, why don't I try out for Nairobi, for example, where I've lived for
Good
most
question.
of my life?
Good question. I don't know. Are you running for Nairobi? Still,
No, I think you fear Sonko so much. You fear Sonko so much that you not ask.
In law politics, the funny thing is that the notion is that you need Raila Odinga for anything. So even if you're going to run for Nairobi, you still need him. So you're just rubbing his back because you expect a return probably in 2022 if you...
Absolutely not, really.
Not,
I
okay.
can tell you. Because the first thing is that, and I think, Ken, you know that, I've just mentioned to you, and you do know my background. I come from the private sector. I was running my own businesses, and still, at this particular moment in time, I spend as much time as I can, possibly mentoring my children to get into business as well.
Okay. Let's go back to the cabinet, because you mentioned you meet the deputy president in cabinet. There was this assassination claims that was discounted by the DCI and all, but all these cabinet secretaries still sit for cabinet, right? What is the relationship between the deputy president and the other cabinet secretaries who are mentioned in the assassination plot? If you say it, I mean, you have to be honest with me before you attempt answering this.
No, I'll be honest with you.
Yes.
Okay. You know, I wish Kenyans could understand exactly what we are currently focused on. Really, we do have a country to run, and we do have some very serious challenges. I'll give you, for example, transition, 100% transition of our children from primary school to high school. This is the first time it was achieved this year. We attempted in 2018, we didn't succeed, but in 2019, we succeeded. Let me tell you, Kenya now is the only country in the whole of the African continent that can make that claim. The only country in the whole continent. We have joined the ranks of Southeast Asian countries like Singapore and South Korea, who achieved this way back in 1978, 40 years ago. But because they achieved that in the education sector, that's why we are all using Samsung phones. And in Kenya and Africa, nobody is even able to produce a Mulika Muizi. That achievement is one of the things that we focused our attention to so much in the last several months of cabinet, to the extent that, in fact, ministries were asked to try and see where they had any savings so that we throw it into our education sector. So I'm just giving you that example, that in our cabinet meetings, we are so focused on the business of cabinet, of running this country, of dealing with the big four, for example. I just mentioned to you that this country has one of the worst youth population bulge in the whole world. We had the highest rate of population increase in the 80s and 90s. The chicken have come home to roost. We have hopelessness, joblessness, qualified and qualified youth having absolutely no hope. According to computer simulations by the World Bank, almost 50% will never get a full-time job until they die, unless we address this matter of manufacturing, which is one of the 4 pillars of the president.
Yes.
Now, people think that the president just decided to choose, oh, okay, fine, let me have 4. And let's choose manufacturing.
And add another 5. Another 5 on corruption.
Fine. So that's how people look at it. But let me tell you, there is no precedent in the history of the world where any country has made the transition from being a poor, backward country with low standards of living for its citizens and become a first world country or a second world country where there is employment of youth without addressing the education sector and manufacturing.
Okay.
So it's not only about the president's legacy. It is what we have to do to survive and to remain viable as a country. So for us to go to cabinet and even start remotely thinking of, oh, I don't know, there was an assassination attempt, accusation somewhere, let me tell you, it has no chance of featuring at all.
That's what you say.
That is what the truth is. Please check with anybody else.
The allegations that there are other cabinet secretaries who have stopped sitting because of a divided cabinet, these are false.
It's false. Absolutely false. Even our cabinet meetings, this full committee of cabinet that we sit at the office of the president under the chairmanship of Matiang'i, nobody has ever missed because of any differences. And when we are in that cabinet meeting, we sit, we are mixed, and we execute the matters that we have to execute. We deal with the matters that we have to deal with. We normally emerge out, we come out with a consensus, no voting. If anybody decides that they don't agree, you note what you don't agree, what you don't agree with, what you disagree with.
Okay.
But it has been so smooth that when I see what I read in the papers and I compare with what actually happens in our Tuesday meetings, where we all go at
Tuesday or
7:30.
Thursdays?
It's Tuesday. Tuesday is the subcommittee, and Thursday
Is the full committee.
Yes.
Okay. So apart from the president and the deputy president, who sits on the large mahogany table, who else has a permanent seat where you must sit here?
You know, even if I wanted to tell you, I would not tell you the details of how cabinet is constituted and what goes on in
No,
it.
I'm just interested in who has a permanent seat. The president sits right in front. The deputy president sits somewhere. Who else has a permanent seat where they have to sit there? That's what I want to know.
No, we have our name cards.
Okay, a random name card that is posted before you sit.
There's a name card that is posted, but I'm not allowed to divulge
Say who
all
sits where.
details.
The reason why I'm asking this question, SG, is because even the body language, if it was random, the first time the cabinet secretary, say the ones who are mentioned the assassination plot is sitting here, the next time he'll be sitting elsewhere.
No.
So this does not emerging cabinet. You telling us absolutely there's no division
There is
in the cabinet.
absolutely no division.
Let's talk about
we cannot even afford it. Let me tell
in
you.
the cabinet.
First of all, the issues that we have to deal with, as I've explained to you. I mean, I've talked about manufacturing. I talked about what we have achieved in the education sector, for example, which Kenyans are not crediting us with. In fact, people talk about the SGR. Let me tell you, the biggest major achievement of this country is that transition into high school. Of course, I've seen I think it was on The Nation, where we're talking about the problems of classrooms and facilities and so forth. But for me and for the whole country, I think the most important thing is to ensure that all our kids go to school. I think, Ken, maybe you may not be aware, but I can tell you that when I went to school the first time, I didn't have a classroom. My first classroom was under a tree. We didn't have pieces of paper and pen and pencil. My first platform to write on was a soft screen, the soil. All right? So if I didn't go through that, I would not be sitting with you here.
Okay.
So it is very, very important that we support the education sector. What we have achieved there is remarkable, and I'm just giving you that as an example today. What we are going to do as far as manufacturing is concerned, we're coming with the industrial park in Naivasha, which certain aspects of it are going to be launched by October this year. That's a huge development for the country. We're coming up with industrial parks in Mombasa and Ndongo Kundu area.
Yes, right up to
we are dealing with the LabSet project, and there are several other major projects that we are dealing with. And that is all we discuss, how we change the station of this country from where it is to a country where at least our youth can have hope.
Okay.
And if there's anything which is concerning this government the most, is hope
for the youth.
For the youth.
All right. I want to talk about the cabinet one more time, but telling me where they sit is not a security question, so you should have just told me.
No,
that.
we sit
But
around the
it's okay.
table. We sit
Right.
around the table. Of course, the president sits next to the deputy president, and the other cabinet ministers. We
Okay.
have our name cards, and we sit in front of the name card where your name is placed.
The president can do whatever he wants. It's his prerogative to assign any cabinet secretary responsibilities and duties. How has the fact that Fred Matiang'i of Interior assignment as the leader of the cabinet, how has it affected the cabinet and the mood?
Again, this is again one of the reasons why people don't understand how that comes into. I mean, people read things that are not relevant. The Ministry of Internal Security is actually the Ministry of Internal Security and Government Coordination.
Yes,
that's its full name. Now, if you're doing government coordination, then you're the one who can chair the coordination.
It means you understand everything happening in the government?
Not necessarily.
Yes.
But, the provincial administration, for example, what used to be called the provincial administration, which is now the internal security and national coordination docket, where you have the county commissioners. all the way up to the chief. It is in every county. It is in every village. It touches every village of this country. Right?
Yes.
Now, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs does not have any representation at, say, El-Wak.
The county level.
At the county level.
Yes.
All right? So, if the Minister for Foreign Affairs, however senior that minister is, was to sit and chair the coordination of all the works of the country, can they do it?
Okay. So what you're essentially telling me
it is
is
it is function.
Yes.
It is not the individual.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask. What you're telling me, if you were sitting in the Ministry of Interior, you will still do what Fred Matiang'i is doing. All right. Well said. I'd like to get away from that topic. We are taking a short break. When we come back, I'd like to talk about what you have spoken about just briefly, the preoccupation of the government to ensure that we deal with unemployment. But I want to talk about it from the angle of a legislator. So let's take a short break. And then when we come back, we still have about 2, 3, 4 questions to ask the SG before we call it a night. Stay with us. We're right back.
Konza Greens is the only controlled residential development within Konza Techno City buffer zone. Secure your future today.
Somalia cannot move anywhere, neither can Kenya move anywhere.
The Kenyan people know that their sons and daughters who came to Somalia to fight against Al-Shabaab, their efforts was not in vain.
Kenya Defense Forces under AMISOM understands the importance of service delivery to the locals here, and for efficient service delivery there has to be such infrastructure.
Barabara itasaidia wao upande ya biashara.
2012 it has been very difficult, but now she can do her business.
We hope that by 2021 they will be able to take up.
Nathan thought his life was under control.
Your mom and I have decided to go see Uncle Sean. We need you to come and watch your brother and sister.
I'm not getting out of this, am I?
Alright guys, we're leaving.
Hey, you listen to me now, okay?
But in one moment...
Mr. Edwards?
Yeah, this is him.
Your parents have been in an accident.
he'll find himself in over his head.
Don't worry about Ethan and Rachel. I'll take care of that.
Well, you are not fit at this time to take care of Ethan and Rachel. I recommend that you hire a live-in nanny.
In over my head.
Where are we headed as a country?
Every time we make a step forward, we do two backwards.
Any fool with huge amounts of money can be president of this country. It is no longer about service.
Why can't we move these people out and find somebody who can make the right decision for the country?
You're the experts, you can tell me.
We have to change the way we arrive at our leaders. We have to.
Organized crime, terrorism, and corruption, they're really siblings.
We don't need 10 cases. We just need 2 cases done properly, and it will serve a lesson.
Justice can only be found if I prosecute what I have claimed, bring the evidence, and say this man is guilty.
AM Live, every weekday morning on NTV.
It is always on the edge. It is always football time.
Get an HD decoder, dish kit, plus 2 months of DSTV Family for only 4,999 shillings.
Just 2 issues. I'm really at pains to understand what is going on with this government. Mr. Speaker, I feel that there are elements in certain areas of government, because I know the President very well, who are actually undercutting, undermining, and sabotaging the work he's doing. And yesterday I said, on the matter of education, I'm happy that my former VC and my good friend Magoa is now on that seat, because I know he's a man of reasoning. But Mr. Speaker, on the first issue, Why is the government acting as if it is at war with its people? Are we fighting Kenyans? What is going on? Senator Nyamunga, I am a senator like you. Today there's this tax. Tomorrow you're telling people 1.5 housing you must pay or else by force. Tomorrow you're telling car dealers you must only bring vehicles 5 years and under. Hundreds of young people are employed in these dealerships. People cannot afford or else. Tomorrow take this number or else. It's threatening Kenyans. You ask a question, you're arrested. You're taken to court, and then you expect you tomorrow to go teach those children. There is something fundamentally wrong, and I think certain ministers came in and said, oh, for you to be popular, you must be tough. So let us all be tough, like this one. And no. You're not dealing with children in this country. We have houses of reason. We have Kenyans are sensible people. When Kenyans were told, let's ban paper bags because of this, in a day we stopped. So don't threaten people, don't threaten Kenyans. Reason with Kenyans. And let me tell you, Mr. Speaker, and I'll tell those who are listening in government, when you stir a hornet's nest, be prepared for the sting. Kenyans are frustrated. There's a way things can be done. All of these things are good, but there's a way they can actually be done. It's the process. It is not even the content. It is the manner in which these things are being unpackaged to Kenyans. Somebody must look at that.
Of course, it sounds as if there's a disconnect between what you're telling me and the reality that the legislature, such as Sakaja, who's very active in Parliament, talks about. It seems as if there's disconnect. He doesn't understand it at the level of a legislator. How do we understand it as the level of Wanjiku?
No, I quite honestly don't understand what he was talking about. I've tried to listen very carefully. It was a debate in Parliament, and in Parliament, when you're debating, he's an elected member of Parliament, member of the Senate, so to speak. And sometimes he is addressing the gallery of his voters. So sometimes people say certain things that may not necessarily be meant for us, so to speak. But I don't understand what he's talking about.
So you don't think the government is too tough on the Wananchi?
No, I don't think so. I mean, the thing is that if there's something that the government wants to say, for example, enforce. Like, we were tough as a government to make sure that we had this transition into high school. In fact, chiefs were involved in going from home to home. Sub-chiefs and chiefs were involved in going from home to find out why any child has not reported to Form 1. Because basically what we are enforcing is compulsory high school or compulsory secondary education for all Kenyans. Compulsory means compulsory. You may not like it, but you have to do it. You have to do it. Mm-hmm. So, you know, sometimes the role of government is like that of a headmaster. People have to report to class at 8:30. If we are going to say, no, you can come in at 10:30, it may be popular, but we are misguiding the country.
It has to happen.
It has to happen.
Okay. So you don't think we have a reason to cry a citizen based on what we have seen in the last few months and the concerns of members of Parliament?
No, I think
it shouldn't bother us.
No, I think we are a very listening government.
Okay.
All right. Say, for example, the matter of 1.5 for the housing levy, it went to court. And that is as it should be. When it went to court, we said, oh, let us listen to what the courts have to say. Maybe we have a point. Maybe they have a point. So we allowed the matter to go through the court process, no problem.
Okay.
Because if we were to force it as an executive, there were ways of doing it, but we decided, as an executive, we decided, no, let's listen to the people. But the housing pillar is still going on. We have still reached out to international financiers and to, the UN Habitat, I think, is coming up with some 100,000 units and so forth. And we have to convince Kenyans, why do we need these houses?
Okay.
All right. Say, for example, in the Big Four, we have the manufacturing pillar. It's all about human dignity, jobs and job creation. The universal health care is about human dignity. Food security is about the dignity of our people. When people are hungry, it's very undignified. Mm-hmm. Good housing is about human dignity. So surely a government which is focused on human dignity, how can that government be accused
of not caring
for its people?
Right. Let's move this conversation on. And for the first time last week, I had something remarkable and positive about party nominations. When Nairobi governor said that his friend, the late Ken Okoth, asked him to nominate the girlfriend to be an MCA. Interestingly, Ken Okoth was from ODM. The lady is not from ODM. Sonko is not from ODM. So an ODM member of parliament prevailed upon a governor of a Jubilee party, right, to nominate someone on their behalf. But that also reflected the kind of nominations we do in this country. Just how is that even possible?
Okay, let me explain to you. First of all, the nomination process is managed by the IEBC, and there's a public aspect to it, because actually we have to advertise and you have to get into our nomination list long before the election is held. All right? Now, at the national level, the president and the deputy president and my office as the secretariat manage the national level in terms of gender toppers list, the special interest groups, and so forth, in accordance with the guidelines as provided for in the Constitution and enforced by the IEBC. When it comes to the counties, the people who are going to be at the county assembly are essentially going to work under the governor, because we have the national government and we have the county governments. So the MCAs are actually those who are going to work in the county government. So in our decision at the party level, we would receive the names, those who have applied. We share it with the president, the deputy president, and the secretariat at our level, those who go to the national level. Those who are qualified to go to the county level, we give that list to the governor and the county leadership. It is the governor.
At what point? At what point is this list given?
Before
election.
Before election.
Okay.
All right. And it is the governors to prioritize that list of those who qualify according to the requirements of IBC. It is them to prioritize who gets
after they're elected.
No, before they're elected, because they are our nominees.
Oh, they are your nominees. So once they are nominated.
Well, the ones they're nominated.
Okay.
All right.
That explains it.
And we keep off the detail of who gets in for the simple reason that if, for example, as Secretary General, I impose on the governor those who are going to be his MCAs, and these MCAs start to undermine him at the county level, then I'll be accused that, look, you have given me people who are not even our party members, or they're affiliated with the person.
Discretion is
so the
for
discretion
the governor.
is at the governor.
Okay.
All right? Now, whether the person the governor chooses, therefore, is, as long as they qualify according to the letter of the IBC, whether it is their girlfriend, their wife, their relative, and so forth, it's very difficult for us to deal with that in the whole country. But I think there's a lesson to be learned here. That if at all it is true, I don't know the truth of that, but if at all this is true, according to what you quote the governor of Nairobi, if it is true that there was a discussion between him and the ODM, the late ODM legislator, and he accepted to do this favor, then I think the lesson Kenyans should learn is that you should never die for a politician. Why should you die for a politician? Because at that high level, they consult, they make deals, they trade.
They're friends.
They're friends. And you die down here with your baby Pendo and everybody else.
Okay.
You should not die. It is not worth it.
Okay.
Please don't die for politicians. I said it before, I say it now.
All right. And my final question, we've taken a lot of time, and I've taken a lot of your time.
Yes.
What's your party position on the accused persons, elected accused persons, who have found themselves in court for one reason or another? I'll give you an example of the Kiambu governor, Ferdinand Waititu, who's currently in court. What's the party position? Do you have a position, that is?
Well, our party position, of course, is that we had all our nominees sign a pledge not to be party to any corrupt practice if they're elected. So, the law is the law. And unfortunately, this is one of the realities of our constitution, that the law gives security of tenure for the governors. There's a process which is prescribed in the constitution that gives the governor a security of tenure and that his removal is a political process, or if he's convicted and is going to jail, then he can lose that position. Now, we imported this from our Scandinavian friends and European friends and so forth. In Europe, for example, if somebody is found to have even slept with somebody other than their wife, they will sheepishly go before a press conference and say that I tender my resignation. Here, even if they are found red-handed, I think you need a bulldozer to pull them from the bed, so to speak. So really is a question of political culture.
Okay.
So if you're talking in terms of political hygiene, as my friend Patrick Lumumba would say, then people should resign as a matter of principle. You shouldn't have to drag them out with a bulldozer. But in terms, so we just have to go with what the court says, because the party has certain powers, but very limited powers in terms of enforcing discipline of that type, like requiring a governor or a member of parliament to vacate. To vacate.
So why do you then put it in your constitution? Because that's
we put
supreme
it
governing law of your party.
We put it in our constitution, and that's one of the things that I think we underlines the fact that we need some changes in our constitution. We need some enabling clauses in our laws so that then the party can have teeth on matters like this.
Okay. Does that also include the fact that if your constitution says that in this number of days you should do an election, it should be enforced as such, regardless of whether you have money or not?
Precisely.
Okay.
But again, I'll just give you an example. The Constitution and not the Constitution, but the Political Parties Act requires our party to have operational offices in 24 counties, for example. What does operational offices mean? How many members of staff? What should they be doing from Monday to Friday? Now, all these things, we don't have enabling legislation.
Okay.
So we need some help from Parliament. Again, these are some of the things that we hope that in the next couple of years, we should be able to sort them out. Let us also accept that we are a country that is still in transition in many respects, including the transition with respect to the Constitution. There is a requirement that we should have the gender two-thirds rule to be passed by Parliament. Somehow we have not been able to achieve that, and that is shame on all of us as a country.
Okay. All right. SG, you are familiar with this show because you've come here before. So it's time to take a look at our cartoon of the day, right? And I'd like your sentiments on this. Let's take a look.
Is it about me?
It could be about you. Let's see. All right, there is it. The musical chairs. It's right there behind you also. You can say it somewhere there.
Yes.
Musical chairs. That's Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta. So this is about the referendum or the BBI initiative. So it looks at powerful president and then powerful premier. So it's a game of musical chairs. I don't know your view of this.
Yeah, well, I think satire is part of our culture in this country, and it is a reflection of the press freedom and media freedom that we have, and we should guard that jealously, because there was a time when you could not have made that kind of cartoon of on president. You would be in a cooler somewhere. So I think it is a good read and is interesting to watch, but I think we must not lose sight of the fact that the matters we are dealing with respect to the BBI are very serious. Mm-hmm. We want to deal with the challenges that we've had as a country, to the extent that there was even the risk of secession by certain parts of this country because they felt so excluded. So I think it is to the credit of the president that he is bent over backwards to ensure that he is the president of the whole country, that he embraces even those who had disagreed with him and called him names during the launch of the Huduma number. He even had his opponents like Kalonzo Musyoka, Prime Minister Raila Odinga, and of course Musalia Mudavadi go to different parts of the country to launch that program. Unprecedented in Africa. In fact, the only time that this has happened was when Mandela did that with respect to Buthelezi. But to have even Raila Odinga representing the president in certain functions like he did the other day in South Africa as a representative of the president in a state function somewhere else. It does not happen in Africa, and I think we should be very proud of it.
All right, before we do the final part of the show, you have spent almost 1 hour and a half here. I'll give you your last remarks, Steve.
I think what is important for us to remember is that we have a country and we do have some challenges, very, very important challenges that we should be able to, that we must address. We have no choice, and that is having jobs and opportunity for our young people who are hopeless, who are not getting opportunities to realize their full potential. So I think we should spend more time on that as opposed to all the noise making that happens in the public domain.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, SJ. And even as we do our final part, I know this is something you remember very well. So tonight, as we have heard from the SJ, Chama iko imara in the eyes of him, the SJ. Well, time is a true test of time, if the Jubilee Party will hold or not. So let's talk about a man whose time on earth was cut short, yet he had a lot to offer to his country, and of course his party, SPLM. When I mention SPLM now, you know who I'm talking about. He was a true leader of our time, and 14 years ago, 14 years later, his legacy is still alive. The man in question is one Dr. John Garang de Mabior, 7th of August 2005. The headline, Goodbye John Garang. This was when his body arrived in Juba, South Sudan, for the burial. The elaborate funeral was witnessed by tens of thousands, among them 4 presidents, including retired President Kibaki. The former rebel leader spent the better part of his life in the bush fighting for the rights of the Sudanese people. Now today, if you visit Parliament in southern Sudan, town of Juba, you will spot his mausoleum, where a granite and mud brick tomb is set atop a hill, which is regarded to be the highest point in Juba. In keeping with the Dinka and Boer traditions, Dr. Garang was buried with the bed that he used while he led the Sudanese People's Liberation Army in the bush. His coffin was imported right here from the country and was wrapped in SPLA flag, which stood out with its bold red, green and white colors, and of course black. Retired President Kibaki, First Lady Lucy Kibaki and former President Moi were present, together with a host of other leaders. A good place to end our show tonight. You remember that 2005, it's exactly 10 years today since he was buried. All right, thank you, Raphael Tuju, for coming and sharing your perspective and giving us your time tonight. Thank you for watching. Let's do this again next week on Tuesday, starting from NTV tonight to Sidebar. Have a good night. And as always, we go off air, but remember, we're still online and we see your comments. We'll be replying and retweeting some of them. Have a good night. And thanks to my crew right here, led by Rosalia Karanja. Good night.
belongs to him. Oh, yeah. From the bottom of my heart, Lord, I say, from the depths of my heart, Lord, I say.
We are Nation Media Group. Talk to us. Send us your feedback on any of our products, availability or content to help us serve you better. A member of our team will ensure your issue is resolved within 24 hours and you receive a response. Go ahead, SMS 40684 or WhatsApp 0748 150 634. SMS is absolutely free of charge. Nation Media Group cares.
Wake up to nothing but the best in news, conversation starters, and hard-hitting interviews that keep you informed for the day ahead.
Up and early, 6 on the nose, these people don't sleep. Fix first the data protection law, then we come up with the number.
Exactly my question to CS Joe Mushero.
Welcome to Living With Us. I'm your host, Sharon Mundia. Boy, have you missed out.
Stop your wheel, game done.
Thank you for joining us on NTV today.
We have our reporters in different locations.
NTV is right here to bring you everything from the beginning.